Old Friends Day today. Kennedy joins me, Kennedy Nation, both on X and on Instagram. And after Kennedy and I share some thoughts, Jeffrey Rose, he's a hypnotist, talk a little about sleep and kids and maybe even a little bit about daylight savings times a little bit. Kennedy has got a lot to talk to us about. The Kennedy Chronicles, the Golden Age of MTV Through Rose-Colored Glasses is a book. And Kennedy, of course, is killing it on Fox News. There is the book right there. And we'll be right back with Kennedy Montgomery after this.
Our laws as it pertains to substances are draconian and bizarre. The psychopaths start this way. He was an alcoholic because of social media and pornography, PTSD, love addiction, fentanyl and heroin. Ridiculous. I'm a doctor, for sake. Where the hell do you think I learned that? I'm just saying, you go to treatment before you kill people. I am a clinician. I observe things about these chemicals. Let's just deal with what's real. We used to get these calls on Loveline all the time. Educate adolescents and to prevent and to treat. If you have trouble you can't stop and you want help stop it, I can help. I got a lot to say. I got a lot more to say.
I've spent most of my career dealing with illnesses that shorten life, and now we have ways to extend it and extend wellness. I've been working with the team over at V-Shred to develop a product that has everything I want in a longevity supplement. NR Boost has nicotinamide riboside. You know how metal can rust? Well, your body behaves in a similar way. It's mediated through something called NAD. NAD falls as we age, so we're less able to fight off that oxidative process. We oxidize much like that metal. And NAD fights it, but nicotinamide riboside elevates NAD so we can push back on those oxidative stressors, improving health, improving longevity. The other product is Senosync, has fisetin, one of the key molecules to fight off zombie cells, and we've added resveratrol to that, which is a well-known anti-aging antioxidant again. I don't like supplements that have a ton of ingredients. To me, it suggests that none of it's working. When I prescribe a medication, I prescribe that medicine because I expect that to work. That is exactly what I've done with these products. And I want you to go to drdrew.com/vshredmd for 10% off. Again, that is drdrew.com/vshredmd. Let's get right to Kennedy. Kennedy, it's so good to see you and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Dr. Drew. I want to shred my V.
Good. Excellent. We want you to. So I want to know something. What is New York City doing? What's up with Mamdani?
Everyone I know is really freaked out by this guy. Anyone who has any money saved, any money in real estate, a good job, they're all talking about leaving the city if they still live here. I've seen an exodus of some of my friends and coworkers since COVID. And a lot of them have gone to New Jersey if they still work in Manhattan, places like Jersey City and Hoboken. And, you know, they use the ferry system and the PATH trains, and they get into the city pretty easily. They just don't have to pay New York City taxes. But you are going to see people moving far, far away and figuring out different ways to live life because they will be forced to, because the way the city will shake out if you have someone in control who will use his power and influence over the city council to, do what Alvin Bragg is already doing. And that is letting really violent people go so they can reoffend. And then you have, on the sadder side, you have the mentally ill drug addicts who don't get the kind of help that they need. And they are thrown out like garbage onto the street. And sometimes they're violent and sometimes they're just miserable. And for some reason, all of the high taxes don't seem to help people like that. And it makes you shake your head because everyone has a story every day about interfacing either, with extremely mentally ill people who sometimes they're kind of scary because if someone is having an episode and you're in a confined space, it's hard to know what to do because someone like Mamdani wants to send social workers out to reason with people. But, when someone is in psychosis, you're not going to be able to reason with them and they're going to see those people as a threat and act accordingly. And I worry that
let me be clear.
End up putting people in danger.
to send a social worker in to deal with the most seriously advanced brain diseases that human can develop is the same thing as sending a physical therapist in to do orthopedic surgery. Physical therapists are wonderful. Socialists are wonderful. They are not trained to manage the most seriously brain diseased humans. That is the domain of doctors and nurses. They don't not trained to identify it, not trained to manage it, nor do they have the tools to treat it. So it is absurd to send social workers into these situations that are essentially hospitals without walls and without doctors and nurses. It really is. It's anathema. It's disgusting. But back to our friend Mandami. If you looked at his background, I mean, it's so stunning. He's the last person you want in a position of government. He did some sort of history of certain part of Africa at Bowdoin. That was his major. He then became a DJ or something. He comes from big money. Parents are also not only elitists, they're professors of, sort of at Columbia. I forget even the disciplines they're in. He goes to other countries and has to have security and willfully has no problem paying for that because he comes from a lot of money. And he's going to tell other people, the ensconced elite and the disdain they have for everybody else and the sense that they know all the answers could not be further from true.
So he spent part of his formative years in Uganda, where he has family, and that's where he just went on an extended honeymoon. And he had about 24 special forces officers with fully automatic weapons there at the ready, standing guard. And he said, "I'm a high-profile person. I have to be protected like this because there are threats." And it's like, hey, man, guess what? If you're a single mom in New York City and you live in a rough neighborhood, you have more threats than you can possibly imagine. And she has every right to arm herself and protect herself and her family. But someone like Zoran Mamdani will not do that. So it's interesting because, he lives in this part of Uganda that is walled off. That's where, the few billionaires, where the intelligentsia, like his parents, live. While 40% of the country lives below the international poverty line. Like the poverty line in the United States is, $20,000, $30,000 a year. In Uganda, if you're making the price of lunch at Chipotle a day, you are considered living above the international poverty line. A big swath of people in that country can't afford that and don't make that. But he has to be protected because he's a little fancy lad and he's got his multi-million-dollar apartment in Chelsea. And, I'm sure his parents paid cash for that. He's not worried about his rent going up, but he wants to freeze everyone else's rents, which would be great. But the problem with socialism always is the unintended consequences of the good intentions. So he's convinced a group of people who've never made any money, never had to save any money, never had their wealth redistributed by the government. He's convinced them that his good intentions are practical and implementable. And neither of those things are true because those good intentions have horrible consequences. And unfortunately for this city, it is a bell you cannot unring for years and years and years. And I don't see a 1993 Rudy Giuliani on the horizon to come save everything.
I love the idea of the Kennedy Chipotle poverty line. It's a new. Yeah. Can I use that? Is that okay? You're giving that one to me.
I love Chipotle. I'm a fan, but I need to make more than that a day in order to eat Chipotle.
Fair enough. Yeah, it is always the case that social evil is done in the name of good. And especially these days when people have become so narcissistic, they have two predominant signals, which is, hey, I'm here on social media, and then I'm better than you. My virtue is better. It's the ultimate disdain. It's the ultimate expression of envy and disgust. Is I'm so much better because I care.
Yeah, and that's what, this redistributive philosophy is based on. It's jealousy. And it's funny because Zoran Mamdani is a man of means. He has a lot of money. He has generational money. He has family money. He's gone on the record and he has said, like, it doesn't matter if I lose my job, my family will take care of me. Well, most people in New York City are not in that position. And unfortunately, the people with the least mobility, and I'm not talking about people who are in the SNAP program. I'm talking about people who are making $150,000, $200,000 a year. They don't have the kind of necessary economic mobility to stand this, but they're the ones who are going to be stuck with the majority of taxes.
Yeah.
Because the rich people are going to leave. Elizabeth Warren has said, well, I'm not worried about billionaires leaving New York. It's like, let's say you don't live in New York and you haven't talked to people who are threatening to leave, and the people who are already gone who have moved to Florida. I can hear Jeffrey, and he's on the phone, and it's distracting me. And weird. Can you hear?
We don't hear it. No, we don't hear it.
Uh-oh. Who's he talking to?
I make Jeffrey
Who's he
go
talking
away.
to?
I don't know, but he's having a
Caleb.
very deep conversation.
Caleb,
It's because
Jeffrey.
Jeffrey. It's because Jeffrey's on the Zoom call still, but
Well,
we don't
that's
hear him
exciting.
on
I
the
see.
air. Yeah.
Oh, good. That's
Sorry,
great.
Jeffrey.
I
You
hear,
can mute your
I
audio,
hear Jeffrey's
please.
full conversation at the same time. So it's
Oh.
it's a meditative.
Sorry.
So sorry.
Never had that happen before.
Can you mute him, Caleb?
He is
let
muted
Caleb
on
work
the
on that.
broadcast. Yeah.
But not on Kennedy's headset.
Oh, no. I'll text Emily.
Please. So let's switch over to Kamala Harris. However we're supposed
Shall
to
we?
pronounce her name. Come on.
Another winner.
Yes. What do you think of the new book? Are you going to read it? I'm dying to know what's in it.
So the book is meaningless unless she goes full scorched earth. And it's interesting because she would never do that because she doesn't have any actual political instincts. And she's scared that she would squander whatever goodwill she has left. She doesn't have any money left, not from the campaign. I mean, she blew through that and, with $20 million in debt when she was done. But the only thing she could do that would actually make her an interesting person again is if she dug up the bodies and told us where they were all buried and how horrible Dr. Jill is and how much of a vegetable Joe was and what the real deal that he made with her in order to endorse her was. Because, her going, oh, I was so brave and it was so good and I just wish I had more time. No one wants to read that. And it's not true. Because if she needed more time, that means that her poll numbers would have gone up in the 3.5 months she was running. They didn't. They went down. They went in the wrong direction. The more people found out about her as a presidential candidate, the less enthused they were about her presidency. And the thing about the Democrat Party, it's such a racist idea that if you have a minority person, they are going to appeal to minority voters because minority voters vote the way the Democrat Party tells them to. That's not true. People are going to vote for their family. People are going to vote for their kids. People are going to vote for opportunities. People are going to vote for a way to be able to get a loan to start a business. It comes down to really basic stuff. And she didn't have a plan for any of that. She had words that were strung together and written for her every once in a while that almost seemed like something cohesive. I'm being incredibly generous with that description.
Yes.
But the truth is she didn't have a plan and it didn't matter what her immutable characteristics were. It's like if I am a mother of color and your plan is going to make the world less safe and it's going to make groceries more expensive, I'm not going to vote for you.
I would hope not. But, I actually, the last little interview run she went on to promote the book, I felt bad for her. She's one of the worst interview subjects I've ever seen. Can people not talk to her and coach her up? Or, it's really uncomfortable to watch her talk about her ear headphones and things like, and to delight and glee that she's telling you about what everyone knows what headset she wears. We don't really care, Kamala. What is that? I can't figure out what that is.
It's very interesting because and you were the first person who kind of told me about this concept of, there are people in the world who don't have a self. They don't have a sense of self. And I think she's one of those people. I don't think there's
Seems like it.
there's a rich center there. And, that makes her uncoachable because, for people who have a good sense of who they are, when they're extroverts and a little narcissistic, they actually make pretty good politicians because they can take their experiences and that gives them a natural empathy because they can identify with you based on what they've been through, the struggles and the successes that they've had. It doesn't feel like she has any of that stuff to draw from. Yeah. On top of that, like all the reporting is that she's very uncoachable and she has, people on her team and writers and consultants who try and nudge her in a certain direction. And it's not that she's a particularly awful person. It's just that she doesn't want to listen and she doesn't want to do the work. And I think that's why she had such a high exit rate when she was vice president, because if people would write like crazy and they would work like crazy, and then she would go out there and put her foot in her mouth and people are like, why am I wasting my time? I'm putting my reputation on the line because she doesn't have the ability to care about hers.
Yeah, it would just be simply just, please don't laugh. Just don't laugh. Let's go through an interview without you giggling, without laughing. Let's do that, all right? See how it goes. It's just that would be a significant step forward.
She had her whole, all of her marbles in one sack was during the debate. And, I watched that and I thought to myself, okay, if she can comport herself like this throughout the rest of the campaign, and, maybe she got really serious about it. Maybe she realized what it means to actually be this close to the presidency. And then she fell apart. So I'm like, okay, one of two things happened at that debate. One, she wasn't drinking. And even if she's a casual drinker, it's like, we all know the person who takes one drink and they're like giggling and slurring, even though they're not really drunk, it just affects them so quickly. So maybe she's that kind of sipper, but it just doesn't sit well. Or someone gave her debate prep. And maybe it wasn't, the ABC anchor who gave it to her directly. Maybe it was a friend of a friend or an intern to intern transaction. And we've seen these things happen before. Donna Brazile did that for Hillary Clinton. She gave Hillary Clinton all of the questions and, magically Hillary Clinton was able to answer them in 2016. So I wouldn't put it past anyone, especially when you have a friendly news organization that is squarely in your corner.
How was it filling in for Kilmeade?
Oh, on the radio, it was really fun. He has a great team.
Yeah, I bet.
It's like I've done Jimmy's show, Guy Benson's show, Kilmeade show, and it's funny because they all have different producers, and it's funny because when you have hyper competent hosts like Kilmeade, he needs almost nothing because he's been on the air for 3 hours, and so I have to remind them like, no, you pretend I'm 5 and send me links, like send me everything, and so his team is really great.
Are you joining me and Kat and Cam and Susan and going to this vacation destination in January?
Yes.
You're going with us?
Yes.
Oh, this is going to be fun. And Guy, this is going to be a gallery of rogues. This is going to be extraordinary. So
it was funny because Cam was worried that my lovely, sexy teenage boyfriend and I would want to stay up late and gamble, and that we might want to be on the part of the island where there was gambling. And I was like, no, we like to go to bed at 9:30.
We'll see you there. That's the old folk. Well,
I'm keeping toddler hours on this trip. I much prefer it. And then getting up early, swimming the ocean, running, drinking coffee as the sun rises, I'd much rather do that.
Kennedy's living our life, Susan. This is fantastic. We'll be there with you, I assure you. So let's review for people, if you don't mind, our history and your history and how we all ended up here. Because you and I stood in the street after Gutfeld a couple weeks ago. We're going, oh, what the hell? So odd that here we are still, all these years later. So I met you in like 1992, probably.
No, it's 1991. So my old chiropractor in Oregon, where I was finishing high school, I got in a car accident. I was hit by my soccer coach, oddly enough, who was coming the other direction, and she was drunk. So I jacked my neck, and my chiropractor would give me tapes of K-Rock because she went to chiropractic school in California and she missed it. So her friends would record hours and hours of K-Rock. So she would give them to me when she was done. And I fell in love with the station. So when I got
K-Rock,
to...
let's give a little history on that. K-Rock came out of the blue in 1982. No one had ever heard of this station. And this is LA Radio is the number one radio station in the country. And it was dominated by KLOS and KMET, maybe KNAC. And then this little upstart came out of nowhere and dominated and continued to dominate until very recently. So that's what she was listening to. And you fell in love when you came to Los Angeles to work at K-Rock?
So there were rock stations in the country. There were top 40 stations. There were no mainstream alternative stations. And this was the first alternative station that was breaking bands. And, and it used to be that alternative radio would try and follow college, but it was the other way around with K-Rock because they were breaking so much stuff. And so when I got to California, I was taking a communications class at Pasadena City College, and you could get 10% extra credit if you interned at a radio or TV station. So I called K-Rock and they're like, we're hiring interns right now. Come over next week for an interview. And I showed up.
Was that when they were in Burbank, or was that when they were in Burbank, or were they still in Pasadena then? Burbank.
That was the Dolph building.
Yeah. And so you came in, and that's when we met.
Yes. So you were doing Sunday Night Loveline. It had not gone to 5 nights a week yet. So when I first moved to California, I would drive around in my 72 Bug and listen to you and Poor Man on Loveline every Sunday night because I couldn't believe that this stuff was actually on the radio. And then when I finally got a job there, it took me months and months and months because I was an unpaid intern. It wasn't really a job until they would let me in the building and I could actually meet you. And I'd met Poor Man, but they would not let me in on the weekends, and they kept threatening to fire me because I would show up after hours because I was so excited to meet these bands and to see the circus. So I had obviously already dropped out of community college. And then I used to go into Andy Schoen's office every day and tell him to put me on the air. And so finally,
Andy became the general manager of MTV, or music director, general manager of MTV, right? Yeah.
So he was the program director. He let me do
at K-Rock.
A Monday morning shift on K-Rock and from 1 to 5:30 in the morning. And then Louis Largent ran my board, and, Andy listened to the air check and he was like, it's really rough. He's like, but I see something there. I can't believe I'm going to do this, but I'll let you do 2 nights a week on the overnights.
Wow. And did we meet you because it was Sunday night to Monday morning? Is that how I met you? You were the next show,
so I would go in early before my shift. So Loveline finished at midnight, and I would show up early to hang out with you, and I would tell you about my bad stomach. And you sent me to a gastroenterologist who later became a woman. And it was just I met the Red Hot Chili Peppers and the Beastie Boys, and it was amazing.
And then we went to 5 nights a week, and then we got around that time, you got a shift.
Yes. And then I started on air at K-Rock in December of 91. And then I got hired the next August to be a VJ at MTV because Andy, the guy I used to bug, got hired at MTV as the senior vice president of programming. And so he got there. People don't know a lot of the air staff and the I guess we call it the executive staff or the management staff at MTV came from K-Rock. Yes. So Carson Daly did nights at K-Rock. Adam Carolla heard Jimmy Kimmel on K-Rock and called into the radio station, and he was a boxing instructor at the time and offered to train Jimmy Kimmel in his bout against Michael the Maintenance Man. Like, that's how Adam Carolla has a career. That's how Jimmy Kimmel, I don't know how he made this horrible leftward turn, but that's how Jimmy Kimmel and Adam Carolla met, because Adam offered to train him in a boxing match for free. And then Louis Largent, who was...
Go ahead.
No, Louis Largent was the music director at K-Rock. He then went to MTV to be a music executive, and he hosted 120 Minutes. And to this day, I've never met a cooler person than Louis Largent.
Nice
God
guy.
rest
He ran our board at Loveline too for a long time. He did. So yeah, a good dude. And then you came back to be on Loveline as Kennedy from MTV, and there was this guy in the studio with you, Howard Lapidus.
That's right.
This
So
crazy?
Howard, so this is so funny. Howard's wife, before they were married, she was the executive producer of Kevin and Bean. And
Yep,
I
the
screwed
morning
up
show.
so badly. I was interning on Kevin and Bean, and I screwed up so badly. She said, listen, like this morning show is not for you. You need a different job. My coming to an end. So she sent me to her boyfriend at the time, Howard, and she said, they need a receptionist. Go apply to be their receptionist. So I met with Howard and Rick, their talent managers. I met with them in their office, and Howard, was like, how much do you want to make a year? And I highballed him, and I was like, $18,000 a year. And he was like, I'm going to do you a favor. He said, I'm not going to hire you because you would be a horrible receptionist. I can already tell. But I want you to go back to Andy Schoen and tell him that Howard Lapidus said to put you on the air immediately. And I had already been in Andy's office a million times, but I told Andy that, and I'm not kidding you, a couple weeks later, he gave me my first air shift.
Wow. And Howard ended up managing you, and he came in that night that you came back from New York as Kennedy from MTV. And he grabbed me and he goes, hey, what do you want to do? I'm like, whoa, who are you? What's going on here? What is happening? And it's so funny. I think I told you this the other night. He goes, what do you want to be doing in 10 years? And this thought bubble over my head was, well, certainly not this. No way I'll be doing all this stuff. Radio, like, that's nonsense. I will not be doing that. What are you even asking me? Who are you? And he kind of said to me, he goes, to me, I can help you out a little bit. And he ended up managing me until his death a couple years ago, 6 years ago.
6 years ago.
And I didn't know what I was doing. He would just send me out on stuff, and I would just go, okay, sounds interesting. Let's try that. There he is. There's Howard.
Howard.
But thank you for that, Kennedy. We were sort of, and then you came back and went to UCLA, right?
Yes. So after MTV, I moved to Seattle for a few years and found my voice doing talk radio. It was not a big station. It was an FM talk station. And then I moved to LA to do an internet radio show before Sirius XM. And unfortunately, it went out of, they told me that I signed a 3-year deal and it went out of business after 6 months. So I had nothing to do. So I started going to college and ended up getting a degree at UCLA. I got a philosophy degree and somehow ended up back in New York working for Fox News. And I've been here since 2012.
And, there's a lot happening right now. Sort of the tectonic plates are moving in television in particular, or entertainment generally.
Radio too.
Yeah, Stern, I guess, is not going to re-up after December.
I hadn't heard that.
Colbert is out. Well, you've been up in your cabin. Things have been happening, man. I just look at late night, and that's just not a model that works. It just doesn't. There's no model there. No one wants to hear this stuff, and they spend $100 million a year to run these show, and there's not viewers and there's not ad revenue, so it can't survive. So, what are your thoughts on what's coming up next? With is it just going to all go this way, digital, or is this the end of television talk as we know it? What do you kind of think is going to happen? Like Fox, Gutfeld is still thriving.
So everyone at Fox that, we've been talking about this, and every single host is like, I've only got 10 people working on my show. And, we do a ton of content every week. They do digital stuff. They do man on the street. Stephen Colbert had 200 people working for him, and there was never a time where someone came in and looked at cable news and looked at the broadcast networks and went, maybe we should downsize a little bit because it really doesn't affect the content if you do it right.
Yeah.
And Gutfeld has maybe 12, maybe 15 people at most on his team.
Yep.
I remember when The Daily Show, when Jon Stewart won an Emmy, he had 80 writers on stage. Gutfeld has maybe 4. it's like, I think they've got 4 or 5 full-time writers and they're just trouncing them. And, it's a slimmer model is obviously we love our slim models. We miss our anorexic runway girls. No, I'm kidding. But the idea that you can do a lot more and provide the content with less is the way of the future. And that's what anyone who is looking at a bottom line wants to look at. And, it is the content creators who will continue to drive media. And Stephen Colbert, and a lot is forgiven if you're funny. Like, I don't always agree with Jon Stewart's politics, but I think he's really funny and I think he brings it.
Yeah.
And I think he's skeptical in the right ways. He's goofy in the right ways. And Colbert hasn't been bringing good content.
And South Park, same thing, funny as hell, but brutal to everybody. They just cut all directions. Susan's in.
With Stern, okay,
Yeah.
let's talk about Stern.
Okay.
Like, people are saying that he went woke and then Sirius went broke. But he was getting paid, I know,
Lots of money.
10 years ago,
Yeah.
$50 million a year. I don't know what he gets now, but how does that pencil in?
It doesn't. That's the point.
He doesn't have a huge staff, but it's just Sirius is
no, but
different.
there's no.
But
I mean, his salary eats up everything else there, and so everyone else there makes like almost nothing. So they're missing out on so much talent because they can't get big names who would otherwise, they actually can sustain what it would take to, pay them $15 million a year. They create enough content and have a big enough audience and a big enough reach, but Sirius can't afford those people. They've got, one person they've been paying and, there have been diminishing returns. And it is sad that he's not the fun political skeptic that he used to be. And, it's like he and Kimmel went in the same direction and the pendulum they're fine. Like, I bet Howard's a billionaire. I don't worry about him financially. He's been doing this a long time.
Of course.
But the pendulum right now is not swinging in their favor. And, Seth Meyers has talked about how his mental health will suffer if they cancel his show. And I'm like, hey, man, I did a talk show. They canceled it. My life is arguably better than ever. Like, I'm creating content every single day. I'm on Fox News more than ever. I'm doing a 5-day-a-week podcast. I'm writing for the Daily Mail. And, it is a multimedia venture. And I'm working my ass off, but it's pretty enjoyable work. So if you can't find something else to do, if you can't find enjoyment in the next thing because your ego is hung up on this idea of, network sanctity, then you're doing it wrong.
Yes. Yeah, I totally agree with you, Kennedy. And the interesting thing to me, I was talking to Adam about this, I think this morning, that they're missing that when the history is written, the way things have moved along, these guys, meaning unfortunately Howard and Jimmy and even Colbert, are going to kind of look like the fat cats from back when we were kids. They're going to look like the establishment, the elite that didn't kind of keep up. It's sad when you look at it because they were also very talented.
Yeah, at one point they were all incredible. Like when Howard started in Los Angeles, Tammy Heidi and she was doing the overnights. We used to, while she was doing her show on K-Rock, and I would come hang out with her in the middle of the night, we would listen to Howard simulcast because he would start broadcasting at 3 a.m. LA time. And, it's like, that was Tammy's shift. I was 19 years old and just not getting any sleep because it was so good. And it was unlike anything any of us had ever heard before. And he did that for a long, long time. And even when he lost his mind politically, he was still doing incredible interviews and just a phenomenal way of getting people to open up and feel safe and have these
his interviews are still great.
No one had ever heard before.
Yep, I totally agree. And you and I both have been subjects of those interviews, and it does feel like familiar, like a therapist's office where you just all of a sudden he's going to get you going. You forget you're on the radio. You're just talking, which I loved. I absolutely loved that.
Real talent. So
you mentioned something about slim models or something, or wave models. Let's talk about Sydney Sweeney for a second. So what is your take on all the energy around Sydney?
Well, if she can sustain her career on the backs of horny Gen Z boys, and if that's what she's trying to do, she's doing a bang up job. And I know there are some really unattractive, unhumpable people with septum piercings who are trying to call her a Nazi propagandist. She is not, and she's not saying anything. She just kind of, it's like when you're surfing and a wave is about to break over your head, you dive under the wave and get away from the wave energy, and it crashes over the top of you, and then you come out the other side. And I think that's what she's doing right now. She's intriguing. Like, there's something about her that people want to see more of. It's not just her boobs, but the boobs don't hurt at all.
They're good. They're good. And so I want you to help me with, I want you to help me create a joke here, because I've got to go do, what's this? What do you put up there, Caleb?
It's what's going to be in our history books for all future generations. It's a drawing of Trump yelling from the roof of the White House, "Have you seen the Sydney Sweeney ad?"
Oh my gosh. Wow. I want you to help me write a joke, because I got to go into Gutfeld in about a week and 10 days or so. And I was listening, I think you were on this night, and Tyrus said that his friends or people he knows call him the Black Nazi. And I thought to myself, ooh, that's interesting, because I've always felt left out, that I couldn't, my Black friends call each other my N-word as a term of endearment. And now I have an opportunity to do that with Tyrus. I can call him my Nazi. Right? And so I think there's a joke in there somewhere.
He would allow it, because, it's like, he's not, see, here's the thing. When you say that on Fox News, and Greg was making this joke on the 5 a few weeks ago about people going, "My Nazi," and all, it's like the cancel happy left was like, "See, I told you they love Nazis." And it's like, no, you guys were at the Kill the Jews rallies at Columbia. We were the ones that were saying that was wrong. And now all of a sudden, all the people who love the global intifada are mad that Sydney Sweeney has good genes because it means she's a Nazi. Like, all of a sudden they hate Nazis when they were running all over these college campuses, spray painting Hitler was right.
And it was a joke, a play on words, genes and genes. And she had said something about her genes way back when he was on Euphoria. What's this post, Caleb? Caleb wants me to bring up this Donald Trump post.
Our president's post, a very long post about Sydney Sweeney, who is apparently a registered Republican, has the, quote, hottest ad out there, and blah, 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 blah. And he ends it with his now famous constant closing, "Thank you for your attention to this matter." This, again, is going in history books. It is presidential record.
This reminds me of Greg's segments, "We Don't Deserve Him." So, Kenny, let's wrap up with that. What do you make of his lengthy post?
Does it help her with the Judd Apatow crowd? No, it doesn't.
No,
but she's become a much more intriguing person, and even more authentic, because it turns out she actually loves cars. She can shoot guns, and she has a real body. So, it's like there are very few points in our cultural history where someone is able to move the needle so effectively. She is able to do that at this time. And if you can do that and make people really, really mad at the same time, I think that's a massive victory.
Well, making people mad, I don't know if you get the same stuff I get, but I'm sure you must, because these days, if you're not in the middle of some shitstorm or other, you don't really exist. So how are things on X these days, speaking of shitstorms?
And they're always finding something. And people are they're so dumb that I rarely reply anymore. Every once in a while, there's this one guy who reposts stuff that I say on Fox. And I'm like, yeah, no, I said that and I meant it. Thank you for the engagement. Because, people are drooling mental invalids.
It is a weird time. I mean, thank you for going down memory lane with me, because it's so interesting as we look back on the arc of these many decades. We didn't anticipate this, and you and I have not changed. And we may have refined certain ideas or developed out certain ideas, but the world has changed in ways that I never anticipated, and has been operating in ways that I didn't understand it was operating. And COVID blew apart so many of these, blew open the cover on so much of this, and then Elon Musk and then Trump did the rest of it. I do hope we can sort of find our way back to the founding principles. Do you think we'll get there?
Yes, I actually do, because I don't think that, the pendulum can swing this wildly for so long. And I do feel like we're going to find our own version of self-soothing here, because the rest of it just becomes too exhausting and unsustainable.
Yeah.
That's why laughing at it is so much healthier. It's a much healthier reaction. But at some point, I feel like we will be able to moderate our own political moods, so we don't end up killing each other.
Well, thank you for being here. Thank you for being a friend. Thank you for all the years. Thank you for Howard Lapidus, and we'll see you in New York.
Thank you, Drew. Thank you,
I can't
Susan.
wait to
You guys
see your
are
new
best.
show. I know you're going to get a new show.
Wait a minute. What new show?
I just
Should we be
feel it. I'm
Should we
psychically
be promoting
calling
something?
out. No.
Should we promote something? Kennedy,
No,
what?
but I think Kennedy's going to get
Tell
her
me
own
what's
show
happening.
eventually.
Oh, I don't know. I like what I'm hearing, Susan.
I'm putting it in the universe.
All right. You've been killing it on Gutfeld and everywhere, so just keep going. I'm sure. I think that's Susan is
Drew.
Miss
I'll keep
Nielsen.
going.
Just she is Miss Nielsen, and when she says something's happening, it's happening. So
I know. I love it. That's what I love about Susan.
Yeah, I have
instincts.
Howard in my psyche. He's
Howard Lapidus.
sending you love.
That's awesome.
All right, Kenny. See you soon. Take care.
You got it.
All right. Coming up, we're going to switch gears and we're going to talk to a hypnotherapist, Jeffrey Rose. You can follow him, Hypnotist in NYC.
After the break.
After the break, correct.
So, Drew,
yes.
don't you think that the Sydney Sweeney joke, I have good genes, had to do with the fact that she doesn't have fake boobs?
Correct.
Okay.
She doesn't have fake boobs. I can tell you as a clinician. Go watch the thing. Go watch the Euphoria sequence. That will tell you what's up.
I can tell you as a clinician.
Yeah, no, that's not what that is. That's just not what that is.
No, but that was part of the joke.
She said it back then when she got a bunch of shit for doing that scene in Euphoria. She said, "I can't help it. Just my genes, just how I look, how I developed." And they made a joke out of it for these GEANS genes, and now the world has a problem with it. So mockery, everybody. Kennedy's right. Mockery is the proper response. Be back with Jeffrey Rose right after this. I'm excited to bring you a new product, a new supplement, Fatty. I take it. I make Susan take it. My whole family takes it. This comes out of, believe it or not, dolphin research. The Navy maintains a fleet of dolphins, and a brilliant veterinarian recognized that these dolphins sometimes developed a syndrome identical to our Alzheimer's disease. Those dolphins were deficient in a particular fatty acid. She replaced the fatty acid, and they didn't get the Alzheimer's. Humans have the same issue, and we are more deficient in this particular fatty acid than ever before. And a simple replacement of this fatty acid called C15 will help us prevent these syndromes. It's published in a recent journal called Metabolites. It's a new nutritional C15, pentadecanoic acid, it's called. The deficiency that we are developing for C15 creates something called the cellular fragility syndrome. This is the first nutritional deficiency syndrome to be discovered in 75 years and may be affecting us in many ways, and as many as 1 in 3 of us. This is an important breakthrough. Take advantage of it. Go to fatty15.com/Dr. Drew to receive 15% off a 90-day starter kit subscription, or use code Dr. Drew at checkout for that 15% off, or just go to our website, drdrew.com/fatty15. Weight loss and gum loss, the Wellness Company's got you covered with new products. Drop. It's for aggressive appetite control. It comes in easy-to-use liquid drops. No prescription, no painful shot. It is an oral peptide called Retartritide. It actually mimics the way the body naturally loses weight, and it is designed to support faster, more focused weight loss when combined with healthy eating and exercise. And Smile is a breakthrough fluoride-free peptide toothpaste. It gently whitens and reverses gum loss, actually rebuilding tissue at its source with a proprietary blend of peptides, remineralizers, and soothing botanicals. Go to drdrew.com/TWC for more information on Drop and Smile, and check out another new and innovative solution for hair loss called Roots while you're there. That's drdrew.com/TWC for 10% off.
smell is sexy. Or sushi, or Dr. Drupinski.
What?
And Jeffrey Rose, hypnotherapist. You can find him on Hypnotist in NYC. Oh, before I talk to him, though, I want to remind our friends that Paleo Valley is becoming the source for healthful, high-protein, nutrient-dense snacks. God knows I lean on them very heavily. We have loved the grass-fed and finished bone broth and the beef sticks. And Susan and I also use their extra virgin olive oil, which is right here. Used it just yesterday with a tortilla. And also, of course, the polyphenol-dense cold-pressed coffee. Just hours after harvesting, they retain their health benefits at their peak, meticulously sourced from a single organic valley in rural Greece. That's the olives for the olive oil. And unlike the store-bought stuff, it hasn't been sitting on the shelf for long periods of time, losing its antioxidant benefits. It is not diluted nor blended. And there's also, of course, the beef tallow, which we cook with, sourced from grass-fed and finished cattle raised on regenerative farms. At Paleo Valley, they watch every single detail. No pesticides, no chemicals, vitamin E, D, K2, as well as a bunch of beneficial fatty acids, which are stable at high temperatures, unlike the seed oils. Go to drdrew.com/Paleo Valley for 15% off your first order and 20% off when you subscribe. Again, that is drdrew.com/Paleo Valley.
I have to remember to send some to Sage Steele. She uses the tallow on her face.
Yes, she does. She
her
did say
skin
that.
is phenomenal.
She did say that. And I want to remind everybody, if you're not taking Fatty 15, NR Boost, and Cinesync, I literally don't understand why. These are things that to the extent that we understand the science, I want to be able to promise you, I take it myself, that I promise you, it extends wellness and longevity. It's a very significant move for helping with longevity. So I would urge you to do the Fatty, the NR Boost at minimum. And I think the Cinesync is a good idea as well. Jeffrey Rose, we're going to talk about various things, talk about sleep, we're going to talk about hypnosis, Hypnotist in NYC on X, and Hypnosis in NYC, Advanced Hypnosis in NYC.com. Also Instagram, Advanced Hypnosis Center. I hope I got all that right. Jeffrey, thank you and welcome to the program.
Great to be with you today, Drew.
So I've got a lot of kind of oblique questions about hypnosis generally. I guess the question I would start with, what don't people understand about hypnosis and hypnotherapies?
I think oftentimes they think that somehow I have some power to control something or control their behavior. You cannot make anybody do something against their will. You can help them to comply with what they do want, like losing weight or quitting smoking or quit drinking or moderate their drinking or to have greater confidence. But you cannot make people do things against their will.
And, you've been working with hypnosis for a long time. What is I've never seen a cohesive theory about that I believed anyway, that what is hypnosis? What is going on? Is this just an interpersonal state that is reached? And certain people are able to get there more easily than others. And in that state, they're more open to persuasion.
Mm-hmm. Well, they're in a meditative state when they're doing hypnosis.
Yeah.
So it's just simply a narrowness of attention and focus and absorption in one thing where you're not distracted. So in those states, you're more suggestible and you could get a lot of great compliance. If someone's highly suggestible, we use the word somnambulist, you could elicit a lot of powerful, post-hypnotic phenomena like a positive hallucination or negative hallucination or amnesia or analgesia. I don't need someone to be highly suggestible to help them make behavioral changes, to boost their self-esteem, to boost their confidence, and to modify their behavior.
And what is it that makes somebody more suggestible than others?
Well, actors and actresses are considered to be highly suggestible. We use the word somnambulist. That's about 7 to 10% of the general population. People that would actually walk in their sleep or talk in their sleep, they're highly suggestible. So when they're given a suggestion to do something, they do it in the most natural acting as possible. Like a good actor or actress gets into that state and they believe it, they feel that way. You can, in a stage show, which I don't do stage hypnosis, I do therapy, but in a stage show, you're going to see maybe 100 people starting in that audience. Maybe 25 will volunteer, and you'll get about 6 or 7 that are highly suggestible and are compliant with the hypnotist's suggestions. And then it becomes very entertaining to see them feel like they're stuck to their chair or they're dancing like some great artist.
I want to bridge over into a topic, and please, if this is not something you feel comfortable commenting on, just let me know. But I have wondered about the relationship between hypnosis and sort of propagandistic influences. I feel like it's all the domain of persuasion, and it's all very similarly related. I don't know a lot about it, so I've kind of watched it carefully. But I feel like, I don't know, I feel like people have been in a hypnotic state of some type for a while now. And I wonder if you could help me with those issues.
No, absolutely. If you look at good advertising, we're being bombarded with 10,000 commercials a year for food products and processed foods. And that's hypnotizing the masses to do things we would never do intuitively. All of that marketing, if it's successful, destroys instinct and intuition from people. And we become customers in this country. And maybe people are becoming overweight or developing chronic diseases. And unfortunately, we're still looking to the wisdom of the marketplace again. And you have the whole diet industry in terms like low cal and low carb and diet this, silly marketing messages sucking people to be customers. And then we have a pharmaceutical industry eager to have even more customers. What I've always been saying to my clients, I can't help change the environment that we're in, but I'm going to empower you to make better decisions and boost that self-care muscle. And although I've been saying that for the longest time, the truth is we have an environment on a macro level now with Secretary Kennedy at the helm of HHS, where we're working on conquering chronic diseases and we are incentivizing healthier living. So I can help my clients one-on-one to empower them to make changes, to care enough about themselves, to do all the right things. But the environment now is getting better.
Nice. And on average, are women more hypnotizable than men?
I think women, in my experience, are a little more suggestible. Everyone could be hypnotized.
Okay.
Everyone could go into trance,
Yes.
as long as we're awake. As long as we're awake.
Yeah.
But women tend to be a little more suggestible. Yeah. I should say that 2/3 of my clients are women, and I think women are more inclined to seek help, where men are more stoic and feel they don't need any help.
And my sense is women are more hypnotizable. But I also wondered how the sort of next layer of what I was going to ask you is how ideologies become hypnotic. And I'm wondering if people are sort of hypnotized by the ideologies they're taught on college campuses, and they can't break out of it, to sort of use that intellectual structure to try to measure against the reality of the world. They just stay in these ideological bubbles. Isn't that sort of a hypnotic thing?
Absolutely. And unfortunately, we're so suggestible. We like the group. There's a group think, and we like connecting to other people.
Yeah.
I mean, historically, as hunter-gatherers, we were living in clans of 250 people. We were all connected. We shared, dining together and chanting together and praying together and hunting together. We don't have that now. Mm-hmm. So we find other ways that we connect to other people, and we're often misled by certain ideology, like, for example, socialism, as that's a cure-all, just tax the rich and everything's going to be okay.
Yeah. And then the other thing that has been on, you're confirming my thoughts about these things. And the thing that then happens is mob behaviors and scapegoating. Mm-hmm. So what is your sense of, you mentioned hunter-gatherer societies, and I think about, men out hunting having to sort of be rhythmically together and attuned to each other as they may not even be aware that they're seeing each other through their peripheral vision and moving in a unison to try to go after an animal or something. I mean, we have those capacities as humans, and that leads us into being gratified by mobs. And I feel like mobs have been on the loose lately, and they've been scapegoating. The mobs gather and scapegoat. What's your sense of what that is?
No, I see that. We had the mobs during the COVID. Look at the countermeasures where we had to have lockdowns and wearing masks and being compelled to get vaccines or you lose your freedoms. And people went along with that. It was like just a group think, a mass formation hypnosis or psychosis, as you could call it. And people felt we were doing something for the team, but there was no evidence at that time. And you had people that were, especially liberals, that are more inclined to comply with those suggestions, feeling that this is the way we're going to help. We care enough about each other. No evidence whatsoever.
Yeah. And so how, other than seeing Jeffrey Rose, how do we inoculate ourselves against some of that?
Well, just be aware of it. I mean, I have 2 daughters that I let them watch TV commercials all the time, and we laugh at them. So I say, what is that? What's the message? What are they trying to get you to do right now? Especially the pharmaceutical ads, which are just silly. And hopefully one day in some form they're banned and we can't do that. Okay. So they're strong enough to understand that they're trying to break you down, making you feel or there's a need for makeup, for example, or you need this particular pill or this particular clothing, some kind of outfit that's going to make you happy and boost your self-esteem. And it's unfortunate, but as long as they're watching it and they're doing critical thinking, which we don't do often, they're going to be okay.
And it feels like I'm so fascinated by this conversation that and thank you for this. I appreciate it. Indulging me. I feel like you're indulging me, but I'm really interested in your thoughts. And the other thing that is happening with commercials, television commercials in particular, is they're endowed or they're imbued with a lot of anthropology of the moment. And right now, in addition to being persuasive and all the things that you just mentioned, there's also a lot of other cultural information in them. And right now, I've noticed they're either Dana White voicing a truck commercial, or it's a dad writing a letter to his daughter in a Volvo crying outside a lighthouse, not talking about the Volvo, or a Jaguar commercial where the car is never offered us. What is all that? And what's yours? Is that just bad persuasion, or is it they can't help themselves because they're so in the ideological bubble? What is your sense?
No, that's effective because that's what we call anchoring. So there's an emotion attached to some product. That Volvo, for example, so you're feeling emotional, you're feeling tearful or joyful, whatever it is, and then you insert any product at that point, and you feel compelled to own that product.
So the anchoring. So the anchoring is now going in 2 different directions. It's going either like ultimate, UFC, or safe space. That's sort of the way the anchoring is going right now. And the same persuasion techniques are sort of evident there. Do you worry about this?
It bothers me that we're seeing so many commercials for things that we don't need, constantly persuading us to be customers in this country. And when I talk to people that are coming to America for the first time, that's something they notice. They feel like they're a customer, they're a consumer. And in fact, we have to go into debt to buy more and more things to make ourselves happy. And that's unfortunate. So I don't know that I'm optimistic. I don't say that I'm pessimistic either. I think we're just going to keep doing the same thing right now. It's unfortunate, but we need to be doing critical thinking, analyze these things, and boost our self-esteem enough that it doesn't matter what we're throwing out. We don't need that. That's not going to make us happy.
I also feel like the politicians are starting to use some of these techniques. And I always thought that was something from the mid-20th century. I was shocked to see it come at us from our own government, and yet they seem to be leaning into it and using it effectively. Do you see that too?
Oh, it's been that way all the time. Any good public speaker, any good politician is often doing things like speaking in a hypnotic pattern, kind of like the way a priest would or a pastor would speak to the congregation, which sucks them in to listening to everything they're saying. Of course, they also dress the part too. They're wearing, Donald Trump was wearing always that blue suit with a white shirt, of course, and a red tie. So we're seeing the American banner all the time, which helps you, makes you feel connected and loving our country, and that's going to be helpful.
Do you have, I want to talk about sleep in just a second, but again, I'm indulging myself in all your knowledge. Do you have sort of simple words of advice for public speaking? Because people do often worry about being an effective public speaker and they're afraid of it. What is that drawing them in quality?
Interesting you say that. I was having this conversation with my wife recently, and she happens to be the president of a Toastmasters organization, which is a great way to foster public speaking and getting better and better and better. And back to the reference of the early humans, okay? When we were living in those clans, we were speaking and chanting and dancing together. Everyone felt comfortable. We were connected. So now we have strangers, which are just people that we haven't met yet. We haven't become comfortable with them yet. And we need to feel like these are people that are more or less insecure. They want you to like them. Again, it's a self-esteem thing. It's a self-confidence thing to instill that with my clients. And then to imagine them feeling like their best public speaker that they admire, or someone they're modeling, for example.
Yeah, I think it's also, 10,000 hours, whatever. It's getting of the reps in and
right.
feeling how to do that. So let's talk about sleep. 77% of high schoolers report sleep deprivation. There's been talk for a long time. Maha's talking about performing that in some way, and I've been in conversations for, it feels like 2 decades, about changing the schedule in high school to accommodate the natural shifts in sleep that occur because of primarily the hormones flooding the system, where they shift their sleep-wake cycle a little later in the evening. Do you advocate for that, and what are your thoughts?
Big time advocating. Happened to be the legislative coordinator for the organization Start School Later. It's a national organization with 160 chapters all over America, lobbying school boards and school districts and superintendents to move the start time later. And when that happens, oh my God, so much benefits. For example, grades are going up, less car accidents, less suicide, less ADHD, less depression, less anxiety. And this is thanks to the organization Start School Later, which jump-started this whole thing. And states like California now, 3 years ago, your governor signed into law that no high school can start before 8:30. Yet the average start time in America is 8 a.m. And just 10 years ago, the American Academy of Sleep Medicine and American Medical Association and the CDC all recommended that no high school start before 8:30. So it's not really a mandate. It's a recommendation, but it's a floor. You can start anytime you want, but not before 8:30. Because these kids are getting 7 hours sleep. It's like adults getting 5.5 hours. We can't function.
Yeah.
Look at ADHD symptoms too.
Yeah, I agree. I think sleep is so important and regenerative and in terms of processing new learning and whatnot. I mean, there's so many handicaps we are handing these kids if we don't give them the proper sleep and not just encourage it, but teach them how to do that. Is there things that people can do to support that?
Absolutely. Well, if they want to support it on a macro level, they should get involved in the Start School Later chapter. They should meet their legislatures. They should go to PTA meetings, get involved on the school board. A lot of people are actually running for school boards on this issue because these high schools are starting too early. The big problem is that parents don't even recognize. They're underestimating the amount of sleep their children need. Half of parents about 10 years ago in a study, I think in California, believed erroneously that 7.5 hours sleep is sufficient. That's like adults getting 6 hours a night. So they're mistaken. They don't get it. So it's not going to trickle down to their students and their kids and teenagers to get 9 hours sleep, which is impossible with early start times. Absolutely impossible.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, and the homework and whatnot. And I understand that some people are sort of weaving in the daylight saving time issue to try to keep things steady so their sleep, everyone's sleep wake isn't disturbed right in the middle of twice a year.
Mm-hmm. And we should maintain standard time. Absolutely keeping standard time. It's a natural way. We've thrived on that for hundreds of thousands of years. But for some reasons, certain people in this country think we should have permanent daylight savings, which is absurd.
And it was, as I remember, I don't know what the exact history is on this, but I was reading somewhere that had something to do with the charcoal manufacturers, so people would have daylight later to have barbecues in the summer or something. Again, I'm not surprised it would be about money. It's probably about money in the end.
Well, actually, that is the case in Florida, where the golf courses and the country clubs would like to be able to have more of their members golfing 1 hour later. But at what cost?
Sure.
To just miss the clock and change it for everybody who's used to a certain time, and then just going to change it, make it earlier, then make it later. We don't thrive that way.
Weird. It's very strange. And then I think I read something that you were making note of Mary Lou Henner and her autobiographical memory, her extraordinary autobiographical memory. And I met her many times. And when I first interviewed her on television, I told her that I remember an appearance she had on David Letterman's show. I actually think David Letterman was sitting in for Johnny Carson. It was actually the Tonight Show. And I think she straightened me out on that, actually. She said, no, it wasn't the David Letterman show. It was David. And here's what I was wearing. And here's what my shoes looked like. And I was like, yeah, I kind of remember it like that. And and she could tell me what day of the week that was and the exact date. It's an extraordinary thing, but it's another example of the extraordinary capacities of the human brain.
Absolutely. It's funny you mentioned her. I've only met her twice, but twice is enough to understand that phenomena that she had, because I met her for the first time in Miami, 2003, at the South Beach Food and Wine Festival. And she signed a book. I think I met her maybe 15 years later, introduced myself to her. She remembered exactly the time, the date, and everything about that, more than I could possibly imagine. It's phenomenal.
Yeah. It is, and it has something to do with intelligence. People, I don't actually believe they figured out what this is, because when I read about it, they say it has something to do with the rehearsing process, that people with these extraordinary autobiographical memories have an automatic rehearsing of everything that happens during the day. You can't rehearse that enough and keep it rehearsed and get it into long-term memory, because too much stuff is coming in as you go through the day. But I want to make another case in point or argument that it's intelligence. I was at her friend's house. I was meeting Judith Regan somewhere when she was writing that book with her. And Mary Lou Henner was there with her husband and her kids. And as I was walking out, her kid was like 4 or 5 years old. And I heard him speaking to his mom. And I forget what he said or what the language was, but I literally stopped in my tracks. And I turned back. And there's this little child speaking like that, and I said, Mary Lou, that is not normal. That is that, and she goes, oh, yeah, we know. Like we get it, but this is an extraordinary intelligence in this kid. So there's some genetic element here too as well, and it is more of a. And I think Mary Lou's probably smarter than she lets on in many other ways. But it just, this has been the novelty expression of that intellect, the autobiographical material. Who should be getting hypnotic therapies? What are the utility? Where do they plug into the spectrum of mental health services?
Well, if they're looking to lose weight, I can help them. If they're looking to quit smoking, to quit vaping, to quit drinking, to quit using drugs, so they want some self-esteem improvement or public speaking confidence, I can help them. Fortunately now, because of this kind of medium, we're doing remote hypnotherapy. So I'm working with people all over America and Australia and New Zealand and England. If my Spanish was better, I'd be working with Latin American countries too. But estoy practicando mi español, but it's not good enough to help people that only speak Spanish.
I understand. Yes. Does it surprise you? See, when I started seeing Zoom therapies become popular, I thought, it's only going to go so far, because you kind of need attunement of two bodies in space. And I was largely wrong. So did you have skepticism too? Were you surprised how effective it is?
COVID taught us that we could do things remotely. The most important thing is that the person I'm helping knows I care, generally really care, and have compassion, and that I'm listening. That's important too. We're looking at each other. Of course, I want them to be well rested so I could work the magic of hypnosis. If they're tired, they're not going to stay awake when we're doing hypnosis. So that's all I need. It's only a requisite. Oftentimes I'm doing first sessions in person, but certainly when I'm working with people for a second, third, fourth, or fifth session, we're doing things remotely. And I'm very happy that people are pleased and getting results when I'm helping them in your state of California, for example.
I'm going to, and where do people go to your, where do they go if they want to make an appointment with you, by the way?
One website is ahcenter.com, which stands for Advanced Hypnosis Center. If they're in New York, they could go to advancedhypnosisnyc.com. They could find me on any YouTube podcast. They could find me that way. My numbers are reachable on the websites as well. And also with social media like Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, of course.
And I want to push again on this issue because I'm still struggling with it. Is it not true, though, for hypnosis to be efficient? You said you listen, but you're listening with your whole body. Aren't you sort of breathing along with them, and you sort of get into similar biological rhythms with your clients? And how does that happen across Zoom?
People are more suggestible when you're mirroring and matching their body language and the way they're breathing.
Yeah.
So if someone's speaking slower I'm going to adapt and speak slower. And then it becomes a hypnotic pattern that way. And I'm watching them just like I'm watching you right now, and your audience is seeing me. We're connected, and that helps. Once their eyes are closed, I don't really need to be watching them anymore. And it could just be a phone call doing the hypnosis at that portion.
And I've also talked to hypnotists that use sort of various sort of sudden touch movements and things like that. And what is happening with that?
Well, you're making a post-hypnotic suggestion at some point while you're having your client in trance that when I touch you right here on your shoulder, you're going to go deep into trance, just the way you were before. And then again, in that state, you're more suggestible, and you could elicit all the goals of the client has. Got it.
Well, listen, that is what I wanted to get into. Did I leave anything out that you'd like to address?
I just think this is a great tool that we all should be utilizing to achieve our goals. And unfortunately, we're not looking at that. And a good component of my sessions and my clients are coming from doctors and from psychotherapists and psychologists and social workers. So they get it. They could help, in a sense, improve the benefits more rapidly than seeing the same patient, every week or every 2 weeks for years. And people need to do their own research. My website has lots of great stories and research there. They can learn more about it right there.
It begs an interesting question, which I'm sure it's not as effective as you managing somebody in real time, but could tapes or videos or those sorts of things be useful?
Yes. I mean, they're more generic, so it's not specific to that individual, but it's on the same issue. So what I do on my second sessions, I record those sessions, and then they'll listen to those over and over. I don't want them to depend on me. My objective and my business model, get the best results in as 2 sessions as possible, and then they refer me to their friends and family. And then those people refer me to their friends and family. They don't need to come over and over to see a therapist.
I have a question.
The real man has a question.
Uh-oh, who's that?
On Rumble.
Yeah, it's the same question I have.
A percentage of...
Well, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
So that was my question, and someone in the comments also just asked this as well. I had a friend who was a professional hypnotherapist whenever I lived in Los Angeles, and I had 2 other people that were actually hired for events that were professionals trying to hypnotize me. And I really wanted to be hypnotized, and it has never, ever done it's never worked on me. So is there a percentage of people that it just, even if you're willingly trying to do it, it just won't affect them? Or what do you do in those cases of people like me, where it's just, I want to, but I can't get it. It doesn't happen.
Are you referring to a stage show or one-on-one? It
was a one-on-one. So one was a stage show, and then he basically split me from the group and then only focused on everyone else whenever I wasn't doing anything. And then the other 2 were one-on-one people in a quiet office setting. And they tried, and he tried multiple different ways. And one of those 3, there were actually me and 2 friends were there. And the 2 friends, it just worked right away for them. And for me, I'm like, I don't know what I should be doing, because I don't want to make him look bad because it's not working on me and it's working on them. So I know something's happening, but I could never understand, why is it not, why can't I be hypnotized?
You can be. If you're watching a movie, you could be hypnotized. Okay. Right. That's willing suspension of disbelief. You're focused. The beginning of the movie, you're very conscious. That's an awareness of the present. Subconscious mind, that's not engaged yet. That's feeling, it's an emotions, and creativity, and stored memories, and subconscious patterns, which are habits, which I'm helping my clients to break bad habits. But at the beginning of the movie, you're very conscious. You see an actor, and you might analyze that actor and think about when you saw that actor in the past. You might see some scenery in the background, you're distracted. But what happens is shortly you start becoming more and more involved, more delving into that film, and your subconscious gets involved and your conscious starts to subside. And in that state, you're now more suggestible. I'm thinking perhaps you are analyzing the process too much instead of just going with it. Because when you're watching a movie, you're not trying to get lost in that film. You're not like, oh, right. I'm going to get hypnotized. It just happens.
That's very possible. I may have been thinking too much about it. I'm on the 3rd try, and I'm like, oh no, this doesn't work on me. And now I'm going to embarrass my poor friend here who's a professional when nothing happens. And I'm probably thinking about that instead of focusing on it. So maybe let me try that again now that I'm older, perhaps.
I've got to say, I've seen many cases where people come out of a hypnotic session and say something like, yeah, I was in my head the whole time. I was just worried about it not working. It didn't seem to be working on me. And then the hypnotist will mention some post-hypnotic suggestion they left behind. And the patient who said he wasn't hypnotized will do the post-hypnotic suggestion. So you subjectively thinking you weren't hypnotized does not mean you weren't hypnotized.
That's a really good point.
Jeffrey?
Absolutely. Right on, Dr. Drew.
Yeah, because I've seen many, many cases of that. So, okay. Well, Jeffrey, this has been great. I'm fascinated by your field. I get fascinated by stuff I don't know much about. And I feel like persuasion and hypnosis is an important and pertinent topic to our present moment. I feel like our president sort of understands this, and I feel like politicians understand it, and I feel like people that are selling us stuff understand it. So I think we need to understand what they're assaulting us with. I think it's very important. And I appreciate you spending here some time. And I suspect I'll ask you more questions in the future. We'll go to Hypnotist in New York. Hypnotist in NYC on X. And then again, what was the
ahcenter.com, or if they're New York City, advancedhypnosisnyc.com.
Great. Jeffrey, thank you so much.
Great being with you, Dr. Drew.
Cheers. Take care. All right, coming up, let's see, today is Wednesday, is it? Yes, today is Wednesday, and we have one more day this week, and next week will be from New York. Elizabeth Potter and Eric Weiss tomorrow, Miranda Devine on the 12th, Alex Marlowe on the 13th. Dr. Kelly Victory will sit in for me on the 20th. We're only doing 2 shows next week because I have to go to Florida, and then the following week we have to go to New York. How many shows are we doing in New York? You know?
I think we're doing 2, but I think Kelly's going to host one of them.
Okay. And Salty Cracker coming in on the 4th for my birthday, which I greatly appreciated. There's been lots of demand for Salty.
Caleb, you can't have any Wi-Fi problems or any sound problems on that show.
With Kelly?
With Salty Cracker. The last time he was on, we had so many problems.
I don't know which show I'm on now. I think I'm on a total of probably 14 shows with no tech issues. Like my keep updating my this many days since issues.
Other than my mic cord here, it causes a buzz once in a while.
Yeah, but since we started checking in an hour in advance, we've had no problems.
And by the way,
so crazy.
The mic cord.
But you haven't had bad weather.
The problem with the mic cord, I think, is this thing. It's a cough button, and I think it's this. Maybe we can get a new cable to come off of it or something. I don't know.
It's fine. You're playing with it now. It's not doing anything. So.
I can make it do stuff. Trust me.
Yeah, it's that
turned
one.
off completely.
Yeah, it's that one, Drew. Yep. The mic you just
fixed. Rubber bands.
Yeah, I know. We'll fix it when I get off the show. All right, everybody. We appreciate you all being here. We will see you tomorrow at 2:00. And again, do send us, if you have people you'd like us to interview, contact at drdrew.com.
Yes, the cough button.
Cough button.
Somebody said cough button.
Yep, cough button. Okay, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow at 2:00. See you then.
It's a fancy place we have here.
Ask Dr. Drew is produced by Caleb Nation and Susan Pinsky. As a reminder, the discussions here are not a substitute for medical care, diagnosis, or treatment. This show is intended for educational and informational purposes only. I am a licensed physician, but I am not a replacement for your personal doctor, and I am not practicing medicine here. Always remember that our understanding of medicine and science is constantly evolving. Though my opinion is based on the information that is available to me today, some of the contents of this show could be outdated in the future. Be sure to check with trusted resources in case any of the information has been updated since this was published. If you or someone you know is in immediate danger, don't call me, call 911. If you're feeling hopeless or suicidal, call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 800-273-8255. You can find more of my recommended organizations and helpful resources at drdrew.com/help.